Hello listeners, this is CHS Radio and I'm your host, Victoria. Welcome to the 10th episode of CHS Radio. Woohoo, we finally made it to the first double-digit episode, yeah! A pat on the back to all the CHSR team and to all the listeners for listening. If this is your first time listening, thank you for joining us. We're glad to have you. A little introduction on CHSR. We are a podcast made and produced by students at Calvert Education, here to keep you up to date on teen issues, share awesome stories from all around the world, and hopefully make you laugh a little bit along the way. So, let's go ahead and jump right into the episode. Enjoy! First up, we have our announcements with Olivia.
Hello everyone, Olivia here, and I am back once again with your announcements. March 2nd is Read Across America Day. There will be a link in the description for more information. However, we are asking that all of you record yourselves reading from one of your favorite stories, poetry, or prose. It can be audio or video, but must be 5 minutes maximum. And then make sure to post it on Edmodo with hashtag #ReadAcrossAmerica. Now, for all of you who are following the 18-week plan, also known as the plan for a summer vacation, you should all be in semester 2 by now. An announcement coming straight from semester 2 is that there are 2 teachers per semester per course. Pay attention to the directions in the teach lessons to see how your teacher is handling them. I am super excited to announce that Calvert Voices is holding a singing contest. The deadline for your entries is March 20th. All entries must be in MP3 format and sent to calvertvoices@gmail.com. Recently, our very own Readers Theater just released the first act of Ava's Awakening. In addition, they will be producing even more shows soon. Finally, the English classes at Calvert High School have been studying persuasive writing in the recent live lessons. All of the students in English 2 are now able to sign up for the CRWA Plus test, and those in English 1 will be writing persuasive research papers. In order to help us persuade our readers, one of our very own English teachers, Ms. Radachi, or Dr. Rad, wrote a rap for us called Counterarguments, which she is going to perform for you now.
There are 2 ways to counter an argument, and no one of them is not to vent. First, you might choose to concede, and that will take away your opponent's lead. Concessions often leave opponents in a fright because, in addition to saying that they're right, you give reasons why your stance is the best, absolutely better than all the rest. That will shut your opponents down, and they might just even frown. You might also just refute facts and opinions which are not absolute. If, in your opponent's logic, you see a flaw, tell him that he's wrong and that your position should be law. Give sound facts and reasons to support your position. This is your most important mission.
I don't know about you, but I'm a movie junkie. The trailers, the reviews, the films, the popcorn. I'm game for all the things cinema related. And I know I'm not the only one either. Movies are a major media market in today's modern day culture. Plus, movies are just pretty awesome in general. Now, since I've gotten you all hyped up about movies, grab some popcorn, because any excuse for popcorn is a good excuse, because up next is the movie segment with Isabel. Enjoy!
Hello listeners, this is Isabel bringing you the latest news on movies coming soon. On March 4th, Disney's latest movie, Zootopia, comes out rated PG. Zootopia is a mammal metropolis, meaning animals are the civilization and there are no humans. The story is about Judy Hopps, the first rabbit on the police force. Judy takes the opportunity to solve a mysterious case, but she has to work with Nick Wilde, a Willy Fox who makes her job a lot harder. On March 16th, Miracles from Heaven comes out. According to ComingSoon.net, Miracles from Heaven is based on a true story that focuses on a young girl, Annabelle Beam, who miraculously overcomes an incurable, life-threatening digestive disorder. After she is dramatically rescued from her near-death experience, a stunning series of miracles are unfolded to leave her family, her medical doctors, and her community baffled. The film is based on the book of the same name written by Christy Beam, the mother of young Annabelle. On March 18th, Allegiant is coming out! Oh yeah! Party! I've been waiting for this movie since Insurgent. Just saying. Okay. So, basically, for those of you who didn't catch it, Allegiant is the third movie of the Divergent trilogy. In this movie, Triss must escape with Four and journey beyond the wall that encloses Chicago. But this time, they do not stop at Amity. No. Triss and Four are going beyond to find civilization that is claimed to be the last route to peace. Once outside, they learn shocking new truths and make Triss and Four see their history as meaningless. As the ruthless battles threatens humanity, Triss and Four must decide who to trust in order to survive. Triss ultimately must make impossible choices about courage, allegiance, sacrifice, and love that may cost her her life. So yeah, if you are not excited for that movie after this description, or like even by the name, then like what the heck, man? I don't. Wow, just wow. Okay, well, anyway, it seems like March has a lot of good movies coming out, because on March 25th, Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice is coming to theaters, rated PG-13. Like, oh my gosh, I am a really big superhero fan, okay? I just love superheroes. More Marvel, but, you know, DC's good too. Okay, so like when I heard Batman vs. Superman, just like, oh my gosh, how is this gonna turn out? Like, bruh, they're both superheroes. I thought they would like be on the same team and like team up or something. But I don't know, I'm crazy psyched for this. But then I read the description, and I feel like my imagination for the movie was better than the description. I'll read you the description, and I quote, "Mankind faces a new threat as Batman Ben Affleck embarks on a personal vendetta against Superman, Henry Cavill." Yeah, that's all the description said. I'm done with the description. So, yeah, I hope the movie is a lot more than just punching and kicking the whole time. Like, in Man of Steel, I feel like the battle scene was, like, a little long. I hope it's not all battle scene for this latest movie, but whatever. DC's dying. Just kidding! If you love DC, I'm just kidding! Okay. Anywho, those are the newest movies coming soon to theaters near you. Thank you so much for listening. Bye, guys.
So, pop quiz for you all. Is your book list so long that A, it would take you about a week or two to finish it? B, there is still some hope you might reach the end of your book list? Or C, there is absolutely no hope left in this entire universe that you will ever reach the end of that book list? If you answered A or B, you need more book suggestions. If you answered C, you love books. And for all the answers, the Book Mania segment is for you, which is coming up next with Ridley.
Hello CHS Radio listeners, this is Ridley with this month's Book Mania segment. Today I'll be recommending to you one of the comic book industry's greatest storylines, Daredevil, Born Again, written and illustrated by legends of the panel Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli. Written in 1987, this story is frequently hailed as one of the best storylines ever written in comics, as well as one of Miller's best. Miller himself is known for his critically acclaimed work on fan favorites such as Daredevil and Batman, as well as for creating the comics Ronin and Sin City, the latter of which was adapted into a film. Born Again tells of the incredible struggles faced by Matt Murdock, the masked vigilante known as Daredevil, after his secret identity is revealed to the mob boss Kingpin. Miller skillfully weaves together the stories of 6 different characters as they struggle with personal demons while the world collapses around them. Karen Page, Matt Murdock's ex-girlfriend and the person who reveals his secret, is shown suffering under the weight of not only her guilt, but the drug addiction which led to her betrayal. As Murdock's professional life is shattered, his personal relationships suffer as well, with him becoming suspicious of everyone around him, including his former law partner, Foggy Nelson. Wilson Fisk, the mob boss who uses the information to destroy Murdock, is seen at various stages of his plan, never quite basking in success, but subtly enjoying its results and always thinking of his next move. Reporter Ben Urich, a friend of Murdock, sees the true face of corruption in Hell's Kitchen as he searches for truth. The story feels almost operatic in tone, carefully detailing each element of Murdock's ruin, bringing him to his lowest point, and building up to the climax and his final confrontation with the forces that ruined him. It's a satisfying conclusion to the harrowing journey of loss and self-discovery. Well, listeners, that's all I have for you today. Perhaps sometime soon I'll get around to actually watching that Daredevil show I keep hearing so much about. Until then, happy reading!
In the U.S. 2016 presidential campaigns, things are really heating up as the candidate scope gets smaller and smaller. Every day there's new news coming out about the remaining candidates and the soon-to-come election. Since the campaigns and an election are such a major hot topic, CHR brings you Campaign Brain, which gives you the latest unbiased news on the campaigns, candidates, and election projections. So, up next is Campaign Brain with Olivia.
Hello listeners, I am super excited to bring to you this issue of Campaign Brain. Several weeks ago, I received an amazing opportunity to interview Senator Cory Gardner of Colorado. Back in late January and into early February, I was talking to his press secretary over email, and I have a statement from the senator. But before we get into that, how about I tell you a little bit about Senator Gardner? Senator Gardner was born and raised in a small Colorado town called Yuma. His family owned a farm implement dealership for more than a century. Senator Gardner graduated from Colorado State University and has a law degree from University of Colorado Boulder. He slowly rose up in the political world, first as a member of the Colorado House of Representatives, and then eventually joining the U.S. House of Representatives. Now that he is in the Senate, Gardner is working towards expanding the economy and creating jobs. Senator Gardner still lives in Yuma with his wife Jamie and their 3 children, Allison, Thatcher, and Caitlin. Alright, now here's the part you're all waiting for. Senator Gardner's statement. I'm going to be quoting part of his statement, so let's get started. With a crowded primary field, it is difficult to determine how early polls affect the ultimate outcome of the race. I have formally endorsed Marco Rubio for president, as I believe he is a next-generation conservative who can unite this country and put us on the best path forward. Marco Rubio has a strong record in foreign policy. If elected president, Marco Rubio would replace President Obama's failed approach with one that gives our allies a reason to trust us and our enemies a reason to fear us. He understands that America must adapt to an ever-changing global marketplace, and that means making sure that we remain competitive in order to attract and keep businesses and the jobs that come with them in the United States. Marco Rubio can identify with the challenges that voters face on a day-to-day basis, whether it's tackling the soaring cost of higher education or lowering taxes for hard-working American families. Marco Rubio has a vision for this new century and real solutions to the issues our country must address. Senator Cory Gardner. Well, that was very exciting and an amazing opportunity. Thank you, Senator Gardner. Now, as you may have noticed, Senator Gardner talks about his endorsee. We learned about endorsement in my last segment, Marco Rubio. I think we should stay on the topic of endorsements for a minute, as there have been some new ones since my last segment. The first one I will mention is that former Texas Governor Rick Perry, in addition to Tony Perkins, are endorsing Ted Cruz. The Boston Globe is endorsing John Kasich, and then we have the Boston Herald and Chris Christie. Representative Jason Chaffetz, Tim Scott, Governor Nikki Haley, and Bobby Jindal are endorsing Marco Rubio, and the New York Times is endorsing John Kasich. Madeleine Albright and Cory Booker have decided to endorse Hillary Clinton. Finally, Jerry Falwell Jr. is endorsing Donald Trump. If you remember back to my last segment, we talked about caucuses and primaries. I want to update my listeners on some action in this area. On February 1st, we had the Iowa caucus, in which Ted Cruz and Hillary Clinton came out on top. We also had the New Hampshire primary on February 9th. In this primary, Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders won their respective primaries. The Nevada caucuses and South Carolina primaries will be held later in the month. I will continue to update you on upcoming primaries and caucuses and the results of past ones. Ladies and gentlemen, due to unfortunately low numbers in the Iowa caucus and New Hampshire primary, several candidates have decided to drop out of the presidential race. These candidates are Martin O'Malley, Mike Huckabee, Rick Santorum, Carly Fiorina, and Rand Paul. Chris Christie is also expected to drop out. And Rick Santorum is now endorsing Marco Rubio. Okay, listeners, I believe it is time for this edition's poll numbers. I'm going to be using the most recent poll, which was a Quinnipiac poll. On the Republican side, Donald Trump is holding on to his lead of 39%. Ted Cruz is closing in with 18%. Jeb Bush is in last with a 4%. For the Democrats, Hillary Clinton is also hanging on to her lead of 44%. Bernie Sanders is right behind her with 42%. No one is really in last place since those are the only two Democratic candidates left. I would like to say thank you all for listening in to this edition of Campaign Brain. I really enjoyed this segment and I hope you did too. Have a great day and I'll see all of you next time.
Next up, we have our television segment hosted by Rachel. Listen up for what she has to say about what's going on in the TV world.
Hey everyone, Rachel here, welcoming you back to CHS Radio's TV division. Want to know what got renewed, what's new, and what followed in Firefly's footsteps? Yes, we're still bitter about that. Set down the box of chocolate and listen up because you're about to find out. We're going to get the bad news out of the way first, so watch out. Quite possibly the most surprising cancellation of this issue is MTV's drama Finding Carter. Sadly, WGN's period drama Manhattan, starring Harry Lloyd, was canceled after its first season. CBS's long-running legal drama The Good Wife is ending after its 7th season. Another CBS show, Angel from Hell, was canceled before its first season could end. That really says something, doesn't it? A&E's drama Unforgettable was canceled. For the 3rd time. After 4 seasons. I don't know if I ever did mention, but there is a very big distinction between a show that's ending and a show that was canceled. Shows that are ending will be wrapped up, usually, and actually plan for this to happen, whereas cancellations are more like, haha, you suck, no more episodes. No, not even that awesome wrap-up you had planned. So that being said, on to the good news. Netflix original House of Cards was renewed for a 5th season and will continue next year. Law & Order SVU was renewed by NBC for an 18th season. USA's new drama Colony was picked up for a 2nd season. Chicago Med was renewed by NBC for a 2nd season. Another Netflix original, Orange is the New Black, got an additional 3 seasons. NBC's new crime drama Shades of Blue is getting a 2nd season. Sci-Fi's The Magicians was renewed for a 2nd season. An Amazon original comedy Mozart in the Jungle has been given a 3rd season. You thought Law & Order had a lot of seasons? Days of Our Lives just got renewed by NBC for its 51st season. Master of None, another Netflix original, is getting a 2nd season. Finally, HBO's new drama Vinyl was renewed for a 2nd season as well. Our new shows for this issue consist of ABC's new drama The Family, which is about a family whose missing son returns after 10 years. This is set to air on March 3rd. In case you somehow managed to forget, March 7th will see the release of A&E's horror Damien, which I finally found a better summary for. It follows Damien Thorne, who must cope with his life as the Antichrist after discovering his origins. ABC also has a new comedy coming out on March 8th called The Real O'Neills. It follows a family living life more honestly after secrets are revealed. Another ABC drama of Kings and Prophets comes out on the same day, March 8th. This one is a soap opera that tells a biblical saga of faith, ambition, and betrayal. Netflix has a new original comedy that's being released on March 11th called Flaked. It's about a self-help guru who needs some help with his own issues. Criminal Minds is getting a spin-off called Criminal Minds Beyond Borders, which will be airing on March 16th on CBS. This one follows a specialized international division of the FBI. ABC has a drama called The Catch coming out on March 24th. It's a thriller about a PI who's conned by her fiancé. And finally, CBS has a new action drama called Rush Hour, airing on March 31st. It's a buddy cop drama that reimagines the hit film franchise of the same name. Right, on to the most important section. There's a ton of new info out on the Gilmore Girls revival, especially about who's returning to the show, so listen carefully. We're starting with the returns because, honestly, there's so many and I'm way too excited to put it off any longer. Prepare yourselves! Sean Gunn is reprising his role as Kirk. We also have Yannick Truesdale as the lovable grouch Michelle, Lorelai's dog Paulinka, Rose Abdu as Gypsy, John Cabrera as Brian, and Todd Lowe as Zach, which means we get a Hep Alien reunion. If he can clear his schedule, Tank Sade will be returning to play Finn, which means Greg Henry is back as Mitchum Huntsberger. Oh, yeah, and Matt Zuckery is returning as Logan, but whatever. The legacy the show has left behind is epic, but nothing is more epic than the heated debate over who Rory should have ended up with. If you're thinking that the returns would clear this up, you're wrong. Milo Ventimiglia is reprising his role as Jess, and Jared Padalecki is returning to play Dean. The most heart-stopping return is probably David Sutcliffe, who plays Christopher. It's okay, guys. Shh, it's gonna be fine. We don't know that he made up with Lorelai. We don't, okay? And another well-loved character, April Nardini, played by Vanessa Morano, is coming back as well. Upsetting as that may be, Morano did drop a major hint. Quoting directly, she said, "There's no drama that April is at the center of. She's just kind of there being part of the family, which is awesome." Yes, she said family. No, we don't know what that means. Yes, we're all thinking what you're thinking. Finally, Melissa McCarthy said that she hasn't been asked to reprise her role as Suki St. James. However, Amy Sherman-Palladino did say that she may write her into a scene along the way. Now that we're out of the news, let's head into the rec. We've got a great one this time, an amazing period drama called Robin Hood. As you may have guessed by the title, BBC's Robin Hood follows Robin of Locksley and his so-called band of merry men. It's a lighthearted drama that enjoys copious amounts of humor, oftentimes at the expense of Robin's lovable manservant, Much. They spend much of their time in Sherwood Forest, suddenly finding themselves outlaws in their own home. Somewhere along the way, they run into other outlaws living in the woods, and they try to work together to find a way to overthrow the sheriff that's taken over Nottingham. Adventure and shenanigans ensue, and while it may be silly sometimes, don't expect it to skate by on wit and fun stunts. Prepare yourselves to fall helplessly in love with the characters. Prepare yourselves for heartbreak and romance and more heartbreak in that last season that nobody talks about. But all in all, it's a fantastic series with amazing characters and great acting. You can find all 3 seasons of Robin Hood over on Netflix. Right, well, that's all from me for now. If you're interested in recommending a show for me to watch, or if you'd like to cry over this amazing show with someone, you can do so over at chsradio.tumblr.com/ask. Plus, if you want to keep an eye on my unhealthy TV habits, you can add me on followmy.tv as Dragonlord. See you next time, everyone.
Listeners and producers of CHSR come from all around the world from many different walks of life. And from all those different paths and journeys, stories are made which are meant to be shared. One of our own CHSR team members, Joshua, lives one of the most unique and interesting lifestyles I've ever heard of, and he'd like to share some of those awesome stories with you. Coming up next is Joshua's awe-inspiring adventures, with Joshua, of course.
Hello everyone! Today, we are going to explore one of the most influential ships of the 20th century, the USS Hornet. And no, it is not a ship built to resemble a large stinging wasp, even though that would be really cool to see. However, it did sting its enemies. Ooh, I just realized how bad of a pun that was. Anyway, welcome to the 3rd segment of Joshua's awe-inspiring adventures. When we were anchored off of Alameda, California, we were close enough to go see a ship that is in all of the history books, the United States ship Hornet, CB-12. Now, this ship isn't some any old ship. She is 72 years old, however. She is a mighty Essex-class aircraft carrier that played a huge part in the victory over the Empire of Japan in World War II and helped in the battles of Korea and Vietnam. She also recovered Apollo 11's and 12 space capsules with the astronauts aboard them. Now, as I was walking towards her, she seemed like a pretty small aircraft carrier, but she just kept getting bigger and bigger until I fully took in the 894-foot boat. She is huge, and what is amazing is that they built her in under a year, 10 months to be exact. That's if you think about it, that's a relatively short amount of time to build a huge aircraft carrier. The only reason we were able to come aboard her is because the U.S. Navy donated her to the USS Hornet Foundation, and they in turn turned her into a floating museum. She is kept up and maintained by volunteers, many of them ex-Navy men who served aboard her in the many conflicts she faced, and is only funded by donations and the museum fee. I have to say, they have done a marvelous job at keeping her fixed and floating. The Hornet, CB-12, is the 8th ship to be named USS Hornet. The first one was built in 1775 in the Revolutionary War. Since then, United States ships named Hornet have served in the War of 1812, the Spanish-American War, and the Civil War. The first aircraft carrier named Hornet was CB-8, built in 1941. She fought the early battles of World War II until she was sunk in the Battle of the Santa Cruz Islands. CB-8 was the last aircraft carrier to be sunk by enemy fire. In retaliation, the United States started to immediately build another aircraft carrier named the Hornet. This is CB-12, and she was known as the Grey Ghost because she was built right after the destruction of the last Hornet. Some say that she is actually haunted. However, when I went aboard her, I did not see any ghosts or anything like that. Anyway, CB-12 was actually 3 aircraft carriers. Sounds crazy, right? Well, she was CB-12 from 1943 to 47, CBA-12 from 1953 to 58, and CBS-12 from 1958 to 70. CB-12, CBA-12, and CBS-12 were actually all the same aircraft carrier, CB-12. The only difference between them was heavy, and I mean heavy modifications, and different roles. We arrived just in time to do the engine room tour, and to see some other parts of the carrier that are usually kept closed to the visitors. The tour guide led us down one flight of stairs to another, and I started to realize that if this ship looked big on the outside, it is a whole lot bigger on the inside. The engine room was actually pretty neat. It has 8 huge oil-fired boilers to provide steam to the 4 engines. These engines in turn turned 4 propellers, each of them weighed 27,190 pounds each, that could propel the Hornet at 33 knots maximum. However, she usually just sped at 15 to 20 knots, which is the regular speed for a carrier task force. Also, she could travel 20,000 nautical miles at 15 knots. That's a really long ways. On sea glass, we do an average of about 6 knots and an engine range of 700 nautical miles. Besides from the engines and boilers, she also had 4 electric generators and 2 emergency electric generators. She needs a lot of mechanics, that's for sure. The aircraft carrier's main job is to project military power using air power, and the Hornet had a lot of air power. Her air group, the men and women who fly the airplanes and provide maintenance for them, consisted of 500 personnel of the 4,000 personnel usually aboard her. She housed about 90 airplanes that consisted of fighters, cargo planes, bombers, electronic warfare, etc. To launch these mighty planes, she has 2 catapults, which took the plane from 0 miles per hour to 110 miles per hour in a few seconds. In order for the plane to land, she has 4 arresting wires in which the plane hooked onto when landing to stop the plane from rolling off the end of the deck. Jet planes rolling off the end of a deck is never a good thing, I can definitely assure you that. After the engine tour, we immediately went to a tour of the island, or the superstructure that is the communication hub of the entire ship. Inside, there was the navigation bridge, the flag bridge, and the bridge. What I thought was really interesting was that the bridges were actually uncovered. They had no roof during World War II. That meant if you were the helmsman, and if it was raining, you got wet. If it was cold, you got cold, and if a bomb from a Japanese plane happened to fall in your position, you would most likely die. However, with the introduction of the jet plane, the jet exhaust and noise that came with the jet made the bridge unbearable with the uncovered roof. So they added roofs, and all aircraft carriers now have roofs over their bridges. The Hornet cost $69 million, $930 million today, and that investment very much so paid off. She served in 3 separate wars over the years and came under attack 59 times and never got hit by a bomb, torpedo, or by a deadly kamikaze. I salute the men and women who served aboard her, who helped keep the liberty that we all hold dear. So next time that you stop in the San Francisco Bay Area, be sure to go visit the USS Hornet. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this segment, and this is Joshua.
Majority of us here at Calvert High School are avid readers, and when we can get an author on our show, it is super exciting. Please welcome author Trisha Wooldridge for an interview with Raquel.
Hello there, everyone. You are listening to Raquel, and I might as well apologize in advance for my stuffy voice, as I, like so many others, have fallen prey to a cold. However, we can't let that detract from the amazing guest that is joining us for today's interview, the fantastic author, Mrs. Trisha Wooldridge. So, just to start off with, what books have you written so that we can all read them immediately?
I have 3 novels that are out there. The 3 novels are The Kelpie and The Earl's Child, which are part of the MacArthur Family Chronicles. They're set in Scotland, and they have child-eating fairies. And the other book that I have out is Silent Star Song, which is another middle-grade young adult book about a deaf girl, her best friend, an alien, and the intergalactic terrorists they face off against. I also have a lot of short stories and poetry out there in several different anthologies, like Once Upon an Apocalypse, Wicked Tales, any of the journals of the New England horror writers, and a few others that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head.
Awesome. That sounds amazing. I'm really interested to read them.
Thank you.
All right. So, were you always interested in becoming an author?
Pretty much, yeah. When I was as soon as I started getting vocabulary words in like grammar school and stuff, I would run home to hurry up and get them done and come up with the most creative sentences I could and share them with my mom, and then be really proud bringing them back to school. So like even vocabulary sentences were a reason for me to get creative writing.
Awesome. All right. So now that you are an author, what are some unexpected aspects of the job?
The publishing industry in and of itself is interesting. Right now when publishing, that we're going through a lot of changes. There's a lot of people who are going an independent route. The different publishing houses are changing how contracts are treated. You have to be very aware to take care of yourself in a business sense as an author, to protect your rights, to make sure you get paid, to make sure your book actually gets out there where people can see it. So a lot of people don't realize how much of a challenge being on top of the business side of your writing career is. So that was probably one of the biggest things that I still have to work with, and make sure that when I'm counting time, I count it for doing business stuff as well as sitting down and losing myself in the writing.
Yeah, that sounds pretty intimidating.
It is.
So what is your favorite aspect of a story to write, such as the dialogue or world building?
It depends on my mood. Normally, it's dialogue. I love having the characters talk to each other. I love playing with voices. But I also really find it fascinating to do the research and the world building with both of the Kelpie books, the MacArthur books. Those are set in our world, but with fairy. So I got to create the rules of fairy based on folklore and based on what I knew in different stories that are out there. But I also wanted to make sure that it made sense in our world. So that was interesting. With Star Song, I entirely made up those worlds, but I used a little bit of our history for that as well. But I got to have a lot of fun creating these races of aliens. How do the planets work? What are their ecology? How does that affect the characters and the types of characters? So I find all of that fascinating. So I also get to play with the sciences as well. So looking at the environment, looking at space, looking at all of that geology and things like that is also really fascinating and fun to do when you're making your own world.
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun. So what is your favorite book now, and what was your favorite book as a teen?
Probably, most people know Madeleine L'Engle's A Wrinkle in Time, but my favorite one in that series was A Swiftly Tilting Planet, because I've always been a little horse crazy, and that had a unicorn in it, and I have this thing for unicorns. And probably as my comfort read, that is still the same one, but for an overall thing, once I discovered Neil Gaiman's American Gods or the Sandman series, that became probably one of my top favorites as well.
That's actually a really good book. I read that one too. It's a great book, yeah. What gets you in an inspired mood to start writing?
I usually am very much in an inspired mood a lot of times. One of the things that I think writers should do in general is to practice being able to write anywhere at any time. So, like later on today, I've got to go get my oil changed because you need to do stuff like that, and I have to adult, and that's boring. But I know right across the street there's a Starbucks, so I have to be able to drop my car off, go to Starbucks, take that 1 hour of time that I have, and write then. So I don't really have a lot of time to get into the inspired moment. So doing that whenever I can find a chance to write, and getting into the practice of writing whenever you can, even if it's just for 5 minutes or 10 minutes while you're waiting for a doctor's appointment, while you're waiting for your oil change. In between errands, I will try and schedule a stop where I can just drink a cup of coffee and get writing done. I will do that, and I've trained myself to do that so I can get a lot of words in. That said, I also really, really love music. And so for one of the projects I'm working on now, I was really inspired by a particular band, Van Canto, which is an a cappella metal band. So I've had 2 or 3 of their CDs on either in the car or at home, so that even if I'm driving or thinking, I can be in that mindset too. So that sort of answers the question, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It's really interesting. Awesome advice too.
Thank you.
So how do you overcome writer's block?
That's similar to what I said earlier. It's just keep practicing. Make yourself write whenever, and daydream a lot. Daydreaming is part of the writing process, thinking of things. So when I'm driving or I'm waiting, I will have a hand paper with me. So getting into the habit of putting yourself in the world every day. A lot of people say that you have to write every day, and I don't think that's necessary. I can't. I'm an editor as well as an author, and some days I just have to focus on getting editing work done because I have deadlines and other people are counting on me. So if I take a few minutes and think of the world that I'm writing in, that can be enough. But I have to write in chunks. So it could be 2 or 3 days where I'm not writing anything of my fiction, and then I'll write 5,000 words in a chunk. So have your mind in your world, but just practice being able to write whenever you have that time, I think is the best way to deal with writer's block.
Awesome, thank you.
Welcome.
So I suppose you sort of answered this question as well. What is the best piece of advice that you have for an aspiring writer?
I would actually do something entirely different, and that's to educate yourself on the business aspect of writing. One of the things, because I besides writing and editing, I also do events for bookstores and things like that. And I'm constantly meeting writers who don't know who's asked me, how do you get started? Or who put out their book and have no idea how to sell it. So they come to the bookstore and look, I got this book, and I'm looking at it and it's not been edited. It has a yucky cover. They don't have a bio, and I say, give me your back of the book blurb. It's messed up. So the best advice I can give to writers is to learn about the business aspect and take time to study what would be the best way to get a book published, how to find editors, how to work with editing, how to promote yourself, how to write your own bio. Every authors should have a 50-word, a 75-word, and a 100-word bio that they can change. You should be able to spout off your 1 to 2 sentence summary of your book like that. And you should be able to provide like a 3 to 5 sentence summary of the book for a press release. So learn how to write press releases and learn how to create marketing materials. Even if you get a deal with one of the larger publishers who will do a lot of that for you, that helps you get into schools, get into bookstores, go to libraries, and gives you more of a chance to sell your book. So that's my biggest advice, is to take time, learn about the business aspect, and also if you do specifically science fiction, fantasy, or horror, look into a lot of the professional groups that help you out. I've been a member of Broad Universe, for example, for 7-8 years, and that's an organization that helps women who write science fiction, fantasy, and horror. And we have a discussion group where we can ask questions about, well, who knows about this anthology? Who knows about this publishing house? And we give each other advice. There are lots of other organizations that do that well. And one of the really cool things about being a writer now is that you don't have to go it alone. You can talk to other writers. You can talk to editors and agents. There's a lot more connectivity in the writing community now. So take advantage of that and find out all the things you need to do to be a professional writer.
That's really interesting because that's something that I am very oblivious in and I really should learn more about. Thank you. Yes.
You're welcome.
All right, so awesome. That's it for questions. However, I thought we could use up a bit more time by attempting another game-ish thing that I came up with.
Cool.
I'm going to provide you with a sentence prompt, and then in 30 seconds, you have to come up with a story to go along with it. So it can be funny, scary, or just completely ridiculous.
Okay.
All right, so the prompt is, everyone knew that the streets weren't safe after the sun came up.
Okay.
And the 30 seconds start right about now.
I sent a text to my husband. Did you pick up Johnny yet? He sent a text back. Doing it now. Hurry home. I raced, but I hit every single red light on the way. The sun was just beginning to go down. When I pulled down the long, winding driveway, I saw my husband's car. There, dented, blood on the windows, on the doors. Eking out of the woods came a small rabbit with blood on its mouth, and then a deer, and then some bats. And I knew we had gotten home too late. The sun had gone down.
Yeah, that's 30 seconds. That's really good. That was way better than I thought it would be, actually. Great job.
Yeah, Twitter has a couple of every so often Twitter will have like prompts for like 55 or 140 character stories, or on Facebook 50-word stories. So those are fun to practice with too.
Yeah, I can imagine. All right, well, that's it. That's all that I have for today. Thank you so much for coming on CHS Radio. It was great to have you.
Oh, you're welcome. I had a lot of fun in the interview, and also if people want to follow me, I am on my handle on Twitter or Facebook is Novel Friend. I also have a business with that as well because I do freelance editing. And then I'm pretty Googleable under Trisha J. Wooldridge or TJ Wooldridge. So people are welcome to follow me. I post lots of writing stuff on Facebook and advice and, some feminist stuff too. So, you can feel free to share that information with people too. Awesome, and my website is anovelfriend.com.
Okay, we'll definitely follow you. Thank you very much. All right.
You're welcome. So I was going to read from my newest book, which is The Earl's Child. That came out last December. It is a follow-up to The Kelpie. It's in the same world. It's got the same characters and the same child-eating fairy horse. And I was going to share a little scene that where I've got these two little pixies. And a lot of times when I start talking about fairies or fairy tales for people, they think of like Tinkerbell. And granted, Tinkerbell was a little brat. If you actually read Peter Pan, and even in the Disney version, she was still kind of a brat. But fairies really are kind of a lot darker than that too. So I wanted to share this little scene where I've got these two little fairies that ought to be more like Tinkerbell, or that Heather, the main character, thinks or expects to be more kind of like Tinkerbell. So it's chapter 10, and the subtitle is Even the Smallest Fairy Can Mean Seriously Big Trouble. Behind the main castle, we have all sorts of flower gardens, a hedge maze, and vegetable gardens. Rowan led me around to the far left, where the ancient rose gardens were. In the center of the oldest rose garden was a fountain of bronze peacocks swirling upwards, tails out and catching drops of water that burbled up from the top. Tiny bushes of what Mum and Miss Eliza called tea roses grow around it with their wee, as Dad would say, flowers of peach pink, deep red, and almost purple. Spaces between the bushes have flagstones, and there are 2 benches on either side of the fountain. The fountain was here when we moved in, and it's nearly 100 years old. When people come to visit the castle, a lot of them throw coins into the fountain. Whenever Mr. McInnes cleans the fountain, he collects the coins and my parents donate them to charities. Rowan circled the peacocks, peering at the ledge and the bushes. After our 3rd time around, I stopped. What are we doing here? Ivy had a cut on her hand and she said it was from the rose garden, but she wouldn't look at me and left quickly after I asked her. You told me that the 2 little fairy beings that the twins were friends with lived out here. Remember Ivy said one of them bit Anita when she was going to pick a flower? I think they're still here. Maybe they can get a message to Lord Cadmus and Lady Fauna, but they won't come to me. Maybe they'll come if you're here. I don't think I'd ever heard Rowan say that much at once. His speech was a little stilted and he paused in a few weird places, but that was a lot for him. I wanted to tell him he did a good job, but I didn't. When he was focusing on something, he didn't like distractions. Maybe step back more, with that enchantment on you, you know? Maybe. He gave a firm nod and walked off the path, around the fountain and halfway to the next cross path. I bit my lip. Had the pixies. I thought they were pixies, though I'd never actually met one of them. Hurt my little sister? That thought worried me. I circled the fountain now, by myself. It was in the center of the garden and higher than the other gardens. If the fairy wanted to be seen, they'd know I was here. After my 2nd circle, I was getting impatient and racked my brain to remember what Ivy had called the 2 pixies when she first told me about them. Eerie? Airy? Arenthal? Crap. How many weeks ago did Ivy tell me? Meldat? Why couldn't they have simple names? Meldadium! The tiny voice didn't sound happy. And Arenthal! Also not happy. I squinted towards the fountain where the voices had come from. I saw one of the bushes shaking, went over and squatted beside it. Hi! The tiny forms winced away from me as I spoke. I guess I must have sounded loud to them. Sorry, I said more softly, trying not to grimace as I got a better look at them. You know how there are all these pictures of pixies that look like pretty ballerinas or dancers with butterfly wings or dragonfly wings? Yeah, these guys, not so much. They had arms and legs and were people-shaped with people-like faces. Sort of. One of them, I didn't know who was who, had perfectly smooth, bright green skin and pink eyes with no irises, just like rose quartz or something. Its wings looked like poison ivy leaves. The other did have dragonfly wings, but its skin looked like bark on rose bushes, a mix of green and brown, and thorny. In one of its tiny hands, it held a particularly long thorn like a dagger. Its eyes were pollen yellow with black irises, which was somewhat less freaky than the pink eyes. Neither of them had any hair. I realized we were just staring at each other, which was probably kind of rude. Hi again. I'm Heather. We know who you are, Heather MacArthur, human liaison. Have you summoned us to undo the mischief your family has done? Spoke the green pixie. I couldn't tell if it was a boy or a girl from its voice, which was not as high-pitched as I expected from something so small. Mischief that my family has done? I frowned, but tried not to sound too annoyed. I had a feeling that even if they were being rude, I, the human liaison, would be expected to still be polite. What are... They have trapped us in the gardens, cutting us off from our true home! Rosebark Pixie, whose voice reminded me of pebbles shaking in a rattle, shook its thorn dagger at me. I pulled back a little. Forget manners. Hey, watch it with that thing! Did you hurt my sister with that? She would not even acknowledge us! We have spoken before, and she ignored us as if we had never met! I pressed my lips together, silently praising my baby sister for being good. She's doing what she was told. My father is worried about the Fae and the unseelie lord who is trying to move in, so he asked all the younger kids to stay away from all the Fae because we don't know who is allied with whom. I hope that sounded like I knew what I was talking about. You saw us at the meeting! You should know our alliance! The poison ivy pixie leaned towards me menacingly. Well, as menacing as a 3-inch tall being could be, even if it was wearing poison ivy. Unless you have not declared allegiance to the Lady Fauna and Lord Cadmus because you were allied against them. We are not allied against them. In fact, my parents would like to meet with them, but there was... I tried to think of a good adult word. An altercation between Tom and my dad, so we haven't been able to get word to them. The poison ivy waved its wee hand in the direction of the castle. Not surprised. The Catface's whole family has brought nothing but trouble upon our relations with the MacArthur clan. I don't even know why he was given the little responsibility he had. Of course he would fail. We will bring your message to Lord Cadmus and Lady Fauna if you release us from this garden. Tom's family had brought nothing but trouble to the MacArthurs? I thought of the Platinum Cap, the Marquesa, or something at the meeting, and Tom's cryptic words that he didn't want to talk about her and that his only job was to be my liaison. I could think more on that later. What do you mean, release you? Your family has entrapped us here! Do you not know this? I decided that the poison ivy pixie's voice was really annoying, and was relieved when the rosebark one added, Likely not. We barely see this one in the garden. Let us show her. With that, both pixies jumped from the bush, giving it a mighty rustle for their little size, and took off towards the far end of the gardens. I glanced at Rowan, who had crept up somewhat close to me, and we both took off after them. It wasn't easy. It was like trying to follow 2 dragonfly-sized bugs that zigzagged all over the place. Eventually, we reached the low brick wall that separated the gardens from the nature trails that joined up the preserves bordering our property. The 2 pixies hovered a few inches from the gate. And to find out why they're entrapped there, you'd have to read the story.
As most of you already know, CHS Radio is made and produced by students at Calvert Education, and on CHS Radio, we'd like to spotlight some insanely talented individuals, and particularly writers. Up next is Calvert Compositions, which is read by Raquel, where she will read aloud some written pieces by some awesome students from Calvert Education. Enjoy!
Hello listeners, this is Raquel yet again with the Calvert Compositions segment. Today I'm going to be reading the very last bit of Fatima's incredible story called Story of My Life. So without lingering any further, let's dive right in and enjoy. That summer was one of the best summers I had, yet before long September appeared, leaving the summer days beautiful memories in my heart. My uncle and his family returned to America and gave us permission to stay in the villa even when they weren't there. Yet, I had to return with my siblings to Ain Sefra for school. My teachers were surprised at how much my English had improved, and my friends joked that I was now speaking like an American. Since my workload at home had decreased, with my siblings mostly taking care of themselves, I was more able to focus on school and do independent research on how to prepare for the exams. The week I had completed the exams was one of the most nerve-wracking weeks I had ever experienced. When I entered my home the evening I took the last test, I let out a big sigh of relief. As for the month I had to wait to find out the test results, it was filled with restlessness and tension. Ma encouraged me by saying she would keep me in her prayers, and that she was assured I would score higher than all the other students. However, I didn't feel as sure of myself as she did in me, although I had perfect scores from all my past exams. If I was off even by a tiny bit, I would have to redo the whole year. When I thought of this, my head whirled and my pulse quickened. Would I have to go through all that stress again? I forced myself to think of something else, instead of worrying myself sick about what I could not do anything to change. I already took my exams, and whatever the score was going to be could no longer be modified. One morning I jumped out of my bed early, quickly got dressed, and headed out of the door, walking as fast as I could towards my school. Today was the big day when I would find out if I was to have the biggest celebration of my life or spend the rest of the weeks crying, then redo the whole thing again. As I walked into the building, I could see my classmates shared my feelings and anxiousness. I begged my family to follow me to the big TV that would reveal my scores. However, as I entered, I felt a sickness in my stomach and my palms were wet with sweat. I knew I wouldn't bear to look at that board and find out, so I asked Rama to do it for me while I closed my eyes and placed my hand on my heart. There was a mix of feelings in the room as I heard shouts of joy coming from the successful students and sobs from the failing ones. I bit my lower lip and held my breath, waiting for Rama to say something, when I was suddenly embraced by Rama, and all of a sudden everyone was shouting out joyfully and laughing. Unable to believe that I had succeeded, I looked up at the board and searched for my name. But yes, in fact I had. I had previously expected that I would have been very happy and laugh if I won, yet what happened was that I fell to my knees on the floor crying. I cried because I had finished my high school with the grades of excellence, and I was happy. I cried because now I could stop worrying about exams and actually get a good night's sleep. I cried for many reasons, but most of all I cried because I had just accomplished one of the biggest achievements in my life, and Mom was not there to share the joy with me. After high school graduation and a celebration my family hosted for me, I was engaged and married to a kind-hearted man, being 20 years old at the time. I felt nervous and a bit uncomfortable that I would be leaving behind my siblings I had cared for my entire life, but now Majid, who was the youngest I was caring for, was close to 12 and able to care for himself. My new family was very kind, loving, and respectful, and I was happy living with them. Yet I missed Ma, my siblings, my dad, my uncle's family, and I talked on the phone, often exchanging stories of the latest. Although nobody could ever replace Mom, and I missed her a lot, I felt as though I had fulfilled what she had asked me to do, taking care of my siblings. Somehow, I felt as though if she were me today, she would be proud of me, and just knowing that brought a smile to my face and eased my heart. All right, everyone. With a heavy heart, I must say that is the very last you'll be hearing of this story of my life. I hope you all enjoyed taking that incredible journey with Fatima and me throughout her story. Thank you so much for listening, and come back next time for another reading of a work written by Calvert students.
If you're into music, this is the segment for you. In the Music Corner, we have all the latest information on album drops, single releases, and some really awesome music suggestions for you. Up next is the Music Corner with Rachel.
Oh, hello! Is it me you're looking for? Welcome back to CHS Radio's Music Corner. As always, I'm your host, Rachel. Whether you listen to the All-American Rejects, Ali and AJ, or Aurora, I'm here to give you the latest news from the music world. As per usual, we'll start off with the new releases for this month, and boy, do we have some good ones for this issue. First, we start off with March 2nd, which will see Scandal's latest album, Yellow. March 3rd has jazz rock artist Frode Alnes with Kanstrom. Anouk starts off the releases of March 4th with Queen for a Day. Delta Heavy's new album Paradise Lost will come out on March 4th along with the Knox album 55. Mike Snow has I, and Policia has United Crushers, both on March 4th. Also on March 4th are Tonight Alive with their latest album Limitless, and The Chemists, with a Q, with their album Warrior Sound. ZZ Ward is releasing This Means War on March 4th. March 11th starts with Three Doors Down and their album Us and the Night. Then, the haunting artist Aurora releases All My Demons Greeting Me as a Friend on March 11th. Killswitch Engage has Incarnate coming out on March 11th, and Brian Fallon has Painkillers. March 11th also sees Matt Corby with Telluric and X Japan with a currently unreleased album name. The Falcon has Gather Up the Chaps on March 18th. Gwen Stefani releases This Is What the Truth Feels Like on March 18th, and Hooverphonic releases In Wonderland. March 18th will see Iggy Pop with Post-Pop Depression. Additionally, Red Foo has Party Rock Mansion, and Soul Asylum has Change of Fortune, both on March 18th. And then, Underworld ties off March 18th with Barbara We Face the Shiny Future, and Violent Soho with Wacko. One of the most exciting releases of this issue is Birdie's new album, Beautiful Lies, which is set to come out on March 25th. Following on the same day is Celine Dion's currently undisclosed album and Elisa's album, On. Asking Alexandria releases The Black on March 25th. March 25th will also see Future of the Left with The Peace and Truce of Future of the Left, and The Joy Formidable with Hitch. Metal Church has XI coming out on March 25th, and Zayn Malik has Mind of Mine. March 25th ends with Elephant's album Living Life Golden. Finally, our TBD dates for this issue are La Sarai with music for listening to music to, Zara Larsson with a currently untitled album, and, to save the best for last, Bon Jovi with This House Is Not For Sale. Now, for the Rex, I'm doing something a little differently this time. We tried to go a little bit historical for this issue, so I'm going to do my best to give you a sort of timeline in music, only based on what I listen to. Unfortunately, this didn't work as well as I'd intended, because apparently everything that I listened to is from the 50s, but whatever, it's fine. Starting with the 1940s, we of course have a national legend, Glenn Miller and his orchestra. Glenn Miller was an incredible artist that produced so many amazing songs in his time. He went around performing for soldiers during World War II, but his plane disappeared over the English Channel while on his way to Paris. One of his most famous songs, and one of my most cherished instrumental pieces, is Moonlight Serenade, a gorgeous swing ballad. You may also recognize In the Mood, the band's #1 record and an iconic piece of history, even beyond the world of big band. One of their lesser-known pieces, and actually one that does have lyrics, is the Boogie Woogie Piggy, which you should listen to just because of its name, I mean, jeez. And finally, American Patrol. Another upbeat swing piece that is just absolutely gorgeous. Seriously, all of their work is just breathtaking. Rolling on into the 1950s, we start with Teenager in Love by Dion and the Belmonts, a great one from back when love songs were simple and decidedly less vulgar. Have you ever heard of Barbershop Quartet? Yeah, it's almost like that. Another famous one from back in the day is Que Sera Sera by Doris Day with its awesome harp action, and another favorite of mine by her, the gorgeously jazzy Don't Worry About Me. Tying off this era is Fever by Peggy Lee, a beautiful love song that greatly benefited from the stanzas that she added and was captured wonderfully by her voice. The 1960s are a favorite time of mine, as they put out some of the best music that this country, or possibly the world, has ever seen. I couldn't pick between the two versions, so 1963 also saw a fantastic version of Don't Worry About Me, this time performed by Julie London. Next is the amazingly smooth It Was a Very Good Year by the king of the 60s himself, Frank Sinatra. And I'm sure you've all heard the song It's My Party by Leslie Gore, but did you know that she was only 16 when she recorded that song? You should also check out its sequel, Judy's Turn to Cry, and another one of her songs, Sunshine, Lollipops, and Rainbows. You can tell just by the name that that song's gonna put a bounce in your step. Finally, we wrap up this decade with my all-time favorite, Fly Me to the Moon by Tony Bennett. So smooth, so beautiful, and one of the best songs to sway along with. Lastly, we arrive for a brief stop in the 1970s. The jazz rock band Steely Dan was a huge hit at this time, and I personally enjoy their song Do It Again. It's got a bit of funk to it, but it's very chill, and it has some pretty epic guitar. To wrap it all up, we have another one of my favorite songs, Stayin' Alive by the Bee Gees. If you've not heard this song at least once in your life, then you are shameful to humanity. It's quite possibly the most groovy song that you will ever encounter, and it's both ridiculous and incredibly fun to sing along with. And I'm stopping there because we all know that I'm probably going to do an 80s special at some point. Who are we kidding? Right guys, that's all from me for this issue, but if you want to suggest some of your favorite songs from throughout the years, you can do so over at chsradio.tumblr.com/ask. You can also check out our Spotify for the songs featured in this episode, and lastly, if you're so inclined to keep up with my personal music shenanigans, you can follow me on last.fm as LlamaLlama33. Have a great month everyone, and stay tuned for a cover of Peggy Lee's Fever, performed by yours truly, Rachel.
Sun lights up the daytime, moon lights up the night. I light up when you call my name, and you know I'm gonna treat you right. You give me fever when you kiss me, fever when you hold me tight. Fever in the morning, fever all through the night. Everybody's got the fever, that is something you all know. Fever isn't such a new scene, fever started long ago. Romeo loved Juliet, Juliet, she felt the same. When he put his arms around her, he said, Julie, baby, you're my flame, thou giveth fever. When we kisseth, fever with thy flaming youth. Fever, I'm a fire, fever, yeah, I burn forsooth. Captain Smith and Pocahontas had a very mad affair. When her daddy tried to kill him, she said, Daddy, oh, don't you dare, he gives me fever. With his kisses, fever when he holds me tight. Fever, I'm his missus, Daddy, won't you treat him right? Now you've listened to my story, here's the point that I have made. Cats were born to give chicks fever, be it Fahrenheit or centigrade, they give you fever. When you kiss them, fever if you live and learn. Fever till you sizzle, what a lovely way to burn. What a lovely way to burn. What a lovely way to burn. I said, what a lovely way to burn.
We hope you have enjoyed this edition of CHS Radio and will tune in next month on the first Tuesday of the month for the next episode. If you enjoyed this episode or we really tickled your funny bone, you can find more of us on our YouTube channel. You can also find us and connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and Google Plus as CHS_radio. We thank you very much for listening, and as always, I'm Victoria, and this is CHS Radio. Bye, guys.
The information in today's podcast was gathered from GardnerSenate.com, Delish.com, IsMyShowCancelled.com, Bustle.com, GilmoreNews.com, ABC News, US Weekly, MTV, Wikipedia, CNN, Audionautics, and Real Clear Politics.
One, two, three, go.
Or C. There is absolutely no hope for ever reaching that end of that list. Okay, we need to revise some of this. Revision is needed. Chop chop.
Prepare yourselves. Prepare yourselves. Prepare yourselves. Even I hated that.
Miller himself is critically known He's critically known. He's critically known. Yes, it's a fact that he is critically known. Know that. He's critically known. He is critically known.
See, the thing that I find hilarious is that my throat, I should say, is hoarse. I am hoarse this issue. If I were a rich horse, nay, 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 pum, 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 booty, booty. Yet I'm still singing. Exactly my point. I am still singing. Okay.
I forced myself to think of something else instead of worrying myself thick. Worrying myself thick. That should be just, yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm fine.
Oh, yeah. And, I don't know how to pronounce his name.
And if you answered any of the answers, you are the Bookmania segment. Oh, that doesn't go there.
Ah, you suck. No more episodes. No, not even that awesome wrap-up. That was unfortunate for me.
One of them is not to vent. First, you must choose to conceive. So of course I can't do it anymore.
If you're interested in recommending, I don't even know what I was going for there.
As CHS_radio. We lank you. We lank you. Boy, we lank you. Yeah. We lank you.
I'm not looking forward to saying this name. March 3rd has jazz rock art. See, I can't even stop laughing.
Ah, the pain. Can't I just... Okay.
Law & Order SVU was renewed by NC... Again, I did it again!
B. There's still some hope left for you to
That reimagines the hit film franchise. Then, The Haunting Artist Aurora... Then, The Haunting Artist Aurora... Why am I saying it like that? It's Aurora. The Haunting Artist Aurora. It's perfect, you know what I'm talking about.
I'm done. Okay, thank you. I'm so sorry.